My name is Mike. This is a bike. Now, if you guys have been following my channel, you watched me purchase that bike really cheap. I purchased the bike, got it running, only to find that the output sprocket or pulley was stripped and the bike wouldn't move. I replaced the pulley with a known good one that I had, only to find that the splines were actually damaged on the output shaft. I cobbled it together, I rode it around, it ran okay and everything, but I couldn't really do much with it in good conscience. I couldn't sell the bike or even ride it myself, knowing that that was just kind of a temporary fix. So I put it on the back burner. I procrastinated, and it sat on the side of my house until it started to rot. Anyway, we're back on it. We're going to fix it. No more procrastination. We're going to tear the engine apart, and we're going to split the case and put a set of new gears in it. I could replace just the shaft with an original type shaft, but if I'm going that far in, it's getting the full upgrade. And then it'll be a really good, bulletproof, reliable bike. So if I keep it or sell it, either way, I have clear conscience that it will run and provide some enjoyment for myself or a potential buyer. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you with the procedure of taking the engine out or the engine taking it apart, because we've done that before. And I know you guys get bored easily, especially with my boring videos. So we'll just kind of focus on the highlights in this video. We'll try to keep it short and to the point, and then we'll get the bike back on the road and make a fun bike out of it. So stick around.
Somewhere in a dusty, dirty back alley in western Arizona, not far from historic Route 66, is an old fart trying to cram a square peg into a round hole. He'll work on anything, just as long as it's got at least 2 cool wheels.
Alrighty, so let me show you what we've got. So we got this opened up and it looks really good inside. Surprisingly, I'm not seeing hardly any wear on anything.
And I'm not seeing the typical problem on these that required the upgrade was right down there. I don't know if you can quite capture it with the camera. The very bottom of the case there, you'll see there's a small screw. That's holding a plate. That plate holds the shift drum bearing in. And that's typically where the problems occur. Well, this one's not doing it. Not all of these transmissions failed. Not all of these early units needed that upgrade. So that's why it was never really a recall. They just upgraded the ones that needed it. Because if you look at the gears, they're all really good shape. I still have to tear everything completely apart because I've got to get that shaft out of there, that output shaft out, because that's got to be replaced regardless. But I may end up not doing the upgrade on this one because it is in such remarkably good condition. It's really not necessary, and I can save those parts for another bike that's actually in more need of it. And those parts they're getting a little harder to find these days. So I'm going to go ahead and yank these the rest of the way out. But I also want to talk about a couple of things in the disassembly process that might help you guys if you go to yank one of these engines out. This lower section of frame can be kind of a bear to get out. It's held at the front by 2 bolts that bolted up here. But the tricky part is back here. So where it bolts on back here, it's kind of at an angle, and you've got 2 bolts, and they're Allen head bolts that go into here, and they hold this frame member up underneath. The tricky part is getting that Allen bolt to move, especially on the other side, because you got a bundle of cables in the way as well. So in order to get this Allen bolt out, you really can't get an impact on it. You can barely get a breaker bar in there. Most of the time, I simply break them loose using a large Allen wrench, just an Allen wrench, because then you have the swing you need to break them loose. The problem is the nut on the back side is a lock nut. So this is the hardware that would be used. This lock nut fits into a hexed opening on the back side so that when it's in place, undo it here, okay, this sits in here. Come on, don't make a liar of me. This sits in here like that. So it won't turn. You don't have to try to get a wrench on the back of it. But what you do have to do is get this to rotate enough to come out. And that presents a problem. Because you see, if you do it with an Allen wrench, which you can do, you're moving, like a 1/6 of a turn at a time. Another 1/6 of a turn. And it takes about 46 hours to remove just 1 bolt. So here's what I do. I use a rig like this. 1/4 inch drive. 1/4 inch drive is smaller, doesn't occupy as much space. I've got a wobbly adapter, and I have a shallow 5/16 socket. But then what I did is I took an old Allen wrench, and I say 5/16, you can use 5/16 or 8mm, they're both essentially the same. I cut off an 8mm Allen wrench, and I cut it just as short as I could get it, so that it would fit in the socket, like that, and still have enough of a hex to protrude into the Allen bolt. So that will go into your Allen bolt like that. So this is nice and short, and this fits in that kind of small little pocket there. So once you break it loose, you can't really break it loose with this, but once you break it loose, you can use a regular 1/4 inch drive ratchet, and you'll be able to get this out the rest of the way. You'll be able to just, ratchet it like a normal person. Instead of 46 hours, you got it down to about, 2 or 3 minutes. Big improvement. So as you can see, now you can remove the Allen bolt. I've seen a lot of guys, they'll flip it. They'll put the Allen in from the bottom and put the nut from the top. And that works because you can get to the nut. Oh, it just fell out. You can get to the nut, but then you're still having to come up under here with some kind of a ratchet. And then you also have to apply a 15mm wrench to hold the nut. So this way works fine. It backs the nut out, and as you can see, it just fell out of the frame member. And so you can go about removing the lower
frame section. Something else you might have noticed when I was doing the video is I disconnect the shock at the back here, and that's so you can move the swing arm up and down, because you've got 4 bolts to get to that hold this portion of the frame to the back of the engine. And once again, kind of hard to get to, especially that top one, by letting the swing arm down. Now I have it reconnected now, so I could put it on the jack stands. But when it was loose, it moved this portion of it back further, so you had a little easier access. And your bolt goes through, because here's your rear foot peg, it goes through the rear foot peg, through the frame, and into the engine block. And again, this same rig, once you break it loose with a regular breaker bar, this same rig is ideal for turning that fastener and getting it out. Okay. Come on out of there, little bugger. There we go. That's not the actual bolt. I just did that for demonstration purposes. The bottom ones, they're considerably easier to get to. They're right down here. And you still have some clearance issues, but these ones you can usually get on with just a regular 3/8 drive impact, and you can probably use an impact tool on them. But again, it does make it easier if you can swing the swing arm out of the way. It gives you that much more room. And this is why I'm a pack rat. I save all the stuff that I take apart. Here's an old gear set. This is the same gear set as we've got there. Kind of the main thing you'll notice is, well, the splines are still there on this output shaft. So that's why I hang on to stuff. You never know when you'll need it. You can see the difference. This one there, the outermost point is worn off. It's very flat on the top. This still has a point to it. They're showing somewhere, you can see a little indentation on the teeth, but not nearly as bad as this one, which actually spun. So this has got considerable play in it. And then this one has considerable play in it. Uh-oh. Looks like that wear I was looking at is excessive. Well, guess what? I don't think I'm going to use that. That's, I mean, it's, garbage or crap. Maybe I am doing the full upgrade after all. Alrighty, it's been several days. And the reason why it's been several days is because, well, the parts I had were so worn, I couldn't feel good about using them, so I found the part I needed on eBay. Yep. Here's the one that came with the bike. This is the one that I thought was good that I had, but they had a ton of play. This is the one I just got on eBay, and it's got 0 play. I like that. I'm much more confident using this part. So, come off there, you. So this is going in the engine, or the transmission, and then I can reassemble everything that I tore apart, and we'll have a reliable bike. And while I was waiting for that part to arrive the last couple of days, I did a few other things. First of all, I did go ahead and take the gears completely out of this case, just to make sure I didn't miss anything, and they are absolutely in prime condition. Hardly any signs of wear at all. So I'm very happy with that, and even though it's not the upgraded transmission, it's in very good condition, and we're not going to have to worry about it. The other thing I did is I cleaned things up a little bit, cleaned up around the frame, cleaned that back wheel up a little bit. I also did something I like to do. You see there's an extra wire here, and this is a wire I created. Created this wire because of where they locate the horn. They locate the horn down here where it's right next to the engine to make sure that nobody can hear it honk when there's a car in front of you. So I like to put it, out in front, because typically when you honk the horn, it's because you want to get the guy's attention in front of you, not over here on the side somewhere. That's not where you need the honking to take place. So I take a couple of wires, I tape them together, and they're just male and female spade connectors. Makes it real easy. And then when I go to put this front mount in, I'll just hang the horn from one of the front mount bolts. And I've talked about this panel before. This is kind of a closeout that goes between the back tire and the shock and the fuel pump and stuff. So the bracket at the top here is the same bolt that holds the rear of the shock. So you got to take that bolt out. And the reason you want to take this out is because this rubber deteriorates. This one's actually in pretty good shape, but you can see it's, it's rubber. So what I do is I save old inner tubes, and then I draw out these rivets here, and then you just cut a piece of inner tube and, just use pop rivets. So it's pretty easy to replace. And then you can ensure that water coming off that back tire is not going to get up into the, electronical stuffs and so forth and create chaos. But unfortunately this time I didn't happen to have any old inner tubes hanging around. So what I'm going to use instead is just a little piece of this vinyl material that I used for making a cobble-ish dash pad for the Yard Art Cougar. It's vinyl. It'll hold up, I think. So I completed that and reinstalled it back on the bike. And, oh no, I screwed it up. I checked twice. I cut it in backwards. This cutout here, this notch, is supposed to be on this side for the taillight harness. Where is the taillight harness? It's here somewhere. Down here. This is... crap. We can always cut a notch here. I know. Gorilla tape to the rescue. That'll work. Alrighty. So, now that one's blocked off, and now we have the notch we need for our taillight harness. God, I'm an idiot. Wasn't about to drill those rivets out again. It's a pain in the neck. Alright, she's set up overnight. The RTV is cured and it's nice and solid. So from this point forward, I got to put the cylinders back on, which means that I have to install some gaskets here. And that creates a little bit of a dilemma, because you see, so even though I do have some gaskets in my rat hole here for doing that job, I only have enough to do, oh wait, maybe I do have enough to do more than one. Look at me, I'm better than I think I am. I was going to say my dilemma is I didn't want to use the gaskets that I needed in the case I have to do a complete transmission upgrade. But evidently I have enough for a transmission upgrade and a new set of gaskets for the current project. So I'll go ahead and get this put back together. You guys see me do this before in several other videos. We'll jam it all back together. Everything's in good shape. We'll stuff it back in the bike. And then we get to figure out why the fuel pump never came on. But that's another project for later on, after we, first things first, right? All right, so I got the jugs and the heads on, got them torqued down appropriately. Next thing will be the valve train. But one of the things I noticed when I went to get my gaskets, and you can see the new head gasket there, new base gaskets, I thought I had enough gaskets to do this job and still have enough left over for the kit. Remember, I thought I said I had enough gaskets to do this job and a transmission upgrade when the time comes? I was wrong. Yeah, see, here's the problem. I've got all these gaskets here, and all 4 of these are rear cylinder head. I don't have, the front and the rear are different on the early bikes. On the later bikes, they're the same. So I've got enough to do 3 rear cylinder heads. I don't have any base gaskets, so I got to find them. And the reason why is because it's really hard to find the front head gasket anymore. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. Because if the bike's ever in a front-end collision, it's gonna, if the frame gets hit hard enough, it will cause this to crack. And I've seen it happen where there's a leak here and the bike's been in an accident. And so the only solution is to replace the cylinder head. So needless to say, front cylinder head gaskets are a little bit more popular than rear cylinder head gaskets. So, well, I'll keep hunting. Used to be able to get them really cheap. Now when they do come up, they want quite a bit of money for them. You know, they're getting rare. They're not made out of palladium. They're just rarer. Alrighty, the engine's all back together except for the primary cover, and that's because I'm still waiting for a gasket for it. Went together pretty smoothly except for the washer that vanished. Yeah, one of the washers for one of the camshaft retainer holder things disappeared, and it fell somewhere, and it made a clinking sound. Actually, 2 of them fell down. I found one, picked it up with a magnet, but the other one, well, it's in the engine somewhere. Oh, God. Anyway, I went after every possible nook and cranny with my borescope and my magnet. Could not find that washer anywhere. Hopefully it made it all the way down to the pan. We'll find out. And then some of you might have been asking, well, what happened to the rear fender? Well, the paint was really badly lacquer checked. The paint looks really good on the front fender, so I wanted the rear fender to look that good as well. So I shipped it off to the paint shop, to my buddy Colt to get it fixed. And I'm going to have him redo the side covers too. They're pretty scuffed up. So that'll improve the appearance a little bit. as I can take her. I'm still waiting for the rear fender to come back from the paint shop, and I'll put that on. And then the side covers are also getting repainted. But in the meantime, I still got to replace that bad fuel pump. Remember, if you watched my little shorts, I had to push this sucker into the bay because, well, it wouldn't start. Anyway, bad fuel pump. I'll do that in the meantime while we're waiting for those covers to arrive. And then we'll put the final assembly on it and take it out for a spin.
Well, it's either remove the shock or take this whole side panel off. So this time I opted to take the side panel off, and I can pretty well get to the bracket that holds the pump and the filter. Now, some people swear when you do these fuel pumps, you need to replace them with another Walbro, which was the company that made them for Victory. But I disagree because, well, they're kind of expensive, like $100. I just use these like generic ones that I get on eBay. They're like $25, and I've never had a problem with them. They're a little bit different dimensions, so sometimes you got to bend these studs a little bit to be able to get them to fit in there. But if you use a slightly smaller fuel filter alongside of it, you'll have plenty of room for a new pump and a new filter, and it'll work just fine. I've put it on pretty much every bike here that uses that type of pump. You can see the aftermarket's a little bigger diameter than this, but the fuel filter that I'm using is a slightly smaller diameter than this. So by moving those studs over, they'll fit in there just fine. And to top things off, when I fired up the pump, which worked fine, I had gas everywhere. So this fuel rail got new hoses. So I got a new fuel pump, new fuel filter, and every single section of hose has been replaced. Except this one, but that looks like new anyway. Previous owner put a new one on. Should be good now.
All I need now is the rear fender and the side covers, and we'll take it for a spin. And fortunately for me, that missing washer didn't, lock the engine up while it was sitting there running. Keep your fingers crossed. When I go for a road test, that washer might come back to bite me.
And she runs and she drives, and all I had left over was just, 4 bolts and 1 nut. So, those are spares. We don't really need them. Spare bolts from previous jobs.
Cool. All right, so my painted parts are finally ready. The rear fender and the side covers. And it's been a little while. But you know what they say. You can get a cheap job, you can get a quality job, and you can get a fast job. You just can't get all three. In this case, well, we didn't get a fast job, but I guarantee you we got a quality job, and it's at a reasonable price. Colt always does outstanding work. So I'm going to run and get them and put the taillight assembly back in it and get it mounted back on the bike. Then we can take her for a rip.
How's it going?
Good, bud. How are you?
It's going in the video.
Come on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it looks great.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah, stylish.
Right. Oh, right on. Right on. Let me get the hatch there. Here's an undisclosed sum of money. I'll give it to you in a second. Would help if I opened the hatch first, huh? Those last couple of pieces of it. Yeah, looks great.
Worried about this falling off. He ain't gonna fall.
He's only right around the corner. All right. Once again, it's a pleasure, Cole. All right, get her put back together. Yeah, the side covers look pretty good on this bike. One of the things I like to do is These side covers are normally held on by this goofy little twist lock J-nut, and I get rid of those, and I use a regular 1/4 inch 20 J, they call it a J-nut or a U-nut, and it just slides onto the tab. So these just kind of slide and lock in, and they are threaded. And then these knobs, they come in various different shapes and sizes. A lot of hardware stores just stock this stuff, so it's easy, off-the-shelf repair, and it's better than these little twisty locky things, because they wear out and they don't hold it real well, and then your side covers fall off and get run over by a big diesel behind you. So now I have to install the taillight assembly, and it goes through holes in the fender, and there's these little grommets that seal the wires from all the dirt and debris that's gonna, you know, splash around in the fender. I mean, after all, that's the fender's job, is to deflect dirt and moisture and stuff like that. So we feed those grommets through these holes, and then we got to put all these electrical pins back into the connector. There's 42 of them. No, there's, let's see, there's 3, 5, 7 of them. And then once those are reinstalled, we can put this back on the bike. She's all back together and looking really good. The paint's a pretty close match. It's not exact, but it never is. I think if I polish the tank, it'll actually match better. Anyway, she looks good. I did check the lights. They all work properly. I didn't miswire that, like, you know, I usually do. And so I think she's ready to hit the road.
that's going to do it for this episode. Tell you what, this thing runs really good. It's going to need a little handlebar adjustment, mirror adjustment, some minor stuff. But overall, the thing runs great, it shifts great, it handles great. This is a good bike. Problem is I got too many bikes, so I'll very likely set this one up for sale. But in the meantime, I'm probably going to go out and enjoy it for a while. Anyway, thanks for watching. Doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. Click the little button, click the little bell doohickey and stuff, and it'll help me. And maybe one of these days, you never know, I might actually get monetized. Thanks for watching.